as far as today's lesson, there's two quick things we're going to do. We're going to go over those results. I'm going to show you how to mark your questionnaire, and then you've got a few pages in your Mind Gym book to read. So pretty simple today. But keep in mind we're talking about a positive attitude and looking at things with a positive outcome. A few classes ago we talked about visualization. We're going to continue to do so. But last class and this class, we're really going to focus on this idea of positive attitudes. And that questionnaire was really designed to do that. It was designed to look at your attitude and how you respond in certain situations. It was designed by performers, for performers. So people just like you were the ones that put that together. Kind of a cool thing about that questionnaire is the gentleman who put it together was actually the psychologist from way back in the 1960s that used to shock dogs that we talked about a few weeks back, Martin Seligman. Well, he has devoted his life to happiness and positivity psychology, and he has developed some pretty cool things, and that questionnaire is just part of the things that he's done at the University of Pennsylvania with his team. So it was 20 questions. You guys are supposed to answer either A or B on each question, and I want to get right into it so we can show you how to mark it. Now, on this page, you're going to see the questions broken down. At any time during this video, you can pause it and go back to where you need to, but I'm hoping that you can take your 20 questions written down or your responses to those and put them into columns just like you see here. So there's going to be 5 questions in each column, and if you go back and you look at that questionnaire, you should see a little title above each 5. So PMG was the heading for the first 5. PMB is the title or the heading for the second 5. PVG for the next, and then finally our last column will be 16 through 20, and that's titled PVB. Now, those little letters are really important, so please take time now to put your paper in order so you can have nice little columns kind of like that. And just remember to mark either answer A or B. Now, once you've done that, we're going to start the grading of the questionnaire by doing just like it says here. We're going to look at every odd numbered question and mark every odd numbered question with a response of A. You're going to give yourself 1 point. And if you responded B to an odd numbered question, you're going to give yourself 0 points. So you go through 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, all the way to 19. And for each odd numbered question, just put a little 1 to the side of your response if it was an A. Put a 0 to the side of your response if it was a B. Now, on to the next part. We're going to do the same thing except reverse it for even numbered questions. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, all the way through up to 20. You're going to look at each response you made, and if you marked it an even numbered question with an A response, put a 0 next to that. If you put a B as your response, put a 1 next to that. Now, this is where the columns really come into play. So I want you to look at those subheadings, and hopefully you've put them in order now, just like I showed you on the first slide. So 1 through 5, PMG, you should be able to tally up that column. Right? You should have a score of a 1 or a 0 next to each answer on 1 through 5, so you can tally up that column. And then you're going to move over to PMB, tally up that column. Over to PVG, tally up that column, and PVB finally. So it says you add your individual question scores to get a total for each of these categories. So PMG is going to have a total anywhere between 0 and 5. PMB column is going to have a total anywhere between 0 and 5. And then you're going to have 4 separate scores. Now, the last thing we're going to do here, you're going to take your B scores and your G scores and put them together. So you're going to add columns 1 and 3, and you're also going to add columns 2 and 4. And we denote these columns with the last letter. So if it's PMB, right, and PVB, those two columns put together will give you your B score, and vice versa for your G score. Now this is the part where it gets interesting. So you'll see here on the bottom section, I've got two halves to this slide. You've got a B score and you've got a G score. Now, if your B score was 3 or below, that means you are optimistic. If your B score is 4 to 6, you're average. If it's 7 or above, you're a pessimist. Now, on your G score, once you've totaled those columns together, if you're 8 to 10, you're optimistic. 6 to 7, you're average. 5 or below, you're pessimistic. Now, keep in mind, we're not clinically diagnosing you, right? Just because it says you're a pessimist doesn't mean you are a pessimist. Or same thing with optimism. It's just a fun little survey to look at how you respond in certain situations. And your B score is actually more important, because your B score were all questions on those 1 through 20. All of those questions in the B section put you in bad scenarios. So how did you respond to a bad event or to a bad situation? Are you a glass half full kind of person, which is an optimist, or are you a glass half empty kind of person, which is more of a pessimist? Now, when we talk about attitudes, right, this is really a big thing. You guys know individuals who are optimistic. You know people that always look on the bright side. Same thing with pessimists. You know people who are always kind of down. They're always waiting for the worst to happen. They're always very negative, right? Those things affect our performance when it comes to our attitude and our play. And this is something that's really important because we can control it. You know, there's so many things in the performance world that are out of our control, but our attitude is always within our control. So let's take control of it, right? That famous line we always talk about, control the controllables. As a former performer, as a teacher, as a coach, as a parent, I can tell you, other than hard work, in my opinion, this is the single most important thing that you can do in the performance world. And that's take things on, take challenges on with a positive attitude. It'll do wonders for you. And not just in the performance world, day-to-day life, right? Nobody wants to be around a Debbie Downer. We like being around people who are optimistic, people who are positive, people who are always looking for the best, right? Let's be one of those people, because we know that positive self-talk really is a dynamic piece to our outer performance, because we start buying into it. And if we continue to keep a good attitude, we're gonna look at things a little brighter, and we're gonna perform at a higher level. At least that's what we see in the research. At least that's what science says, right? Now, one quick thing about this Martin Seligman guy. If we were in class, I'd show you a little video, and he did a really cool little TED talk where he explained psychology 30 years ago had a very negative connotation. You know, he'd fly on airplanes and people would sit next to him and they say, "What do you do?" And he'd say, "I'm a psychologist." And they kind of move away from him. Because usually when you're working with a psychologist, usually when you're working on the mind aspect or mental skills, it used to mean that you had a problem. But he has taken that and he has changed the perception of psychology. You know, he has created and helped to create a core curriculum just like what we're doing in sports psychology. There's no longer a negative connotation that's held to it. It has a positive connotation. So people talk to him now, they say, "What do you do?" He says, "I'm a psychologist." And he says, "People move toward me." And it's because we're not doing things how we used to do them. We used to work with psychologists and work on the mental aspect if something was wrong with you. Now we provide classes just like these for people just like you guys who are successful, and we want to increase your performance. We want to take people who are already good and make them better, right? So this idea of positivity psychology, very cool. I hope this questionnaire, you got something out of it. It's kind of just like a fun little thing that we can do. But as far as today, the last thing you'll need to do is go through our chapter, Attitude is Everything in Mind Gym, and just read those pages. All right, guys. Appreciate it.